Hello, my name is Nicolas Polimenakos. I help out behind the scenes here at NORWAC, the Northwest Astrological Conference. It's happening outside of Seattle, May 22nd to May 26th. Today I'm with Ebony Bledsoe. How are you?
Great. How are you, Nicholas?
I'm great, Ebony. Thanks for joining in. If you're wondering about the conference, that is sold out in person, by the way, but available to anyone who has access to internet, basically the world. You can go to norwac.net and get the registration info. You can look at the speaker lineups, the lecture lineups, the schedule. All the information is there at norwac.net. Ebony,
Yeah.
you're speaking on Saturday.
Yes. First
Uh,
time.
yep, on the 24th, 10:30 a.m. Pacific. The name of your lecture is called Probing the Periphery, a look at the Transneptunian planets of Uranian astrology.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that, Ebony.
Yeah. The name is a mouthful. It's
Yeah.
a little more intense than the lecture itself, which will be very fun and engaging. If anyone has ever taken a class or lecture with me, they know that I like to have a good time. I always have a theme so I have a theme for this one. I won't say what it is. You have to show up to figure it out. But I'm talking about the Transneptunian planets of Uranian astrology, which comes to us by way of Hamburg, Germany. And most of the research on Uranian was led initially by Alfred Witte of the Hamburg School of Astrology. And I think it's helpful to give a little bit of backstory about it, just because I think the lore is fun and it helps people to understand, where these planets have come from. But as World War I was happening and Russia is bombarding Germany with bombs, Witte and his colleague Friedrich Sigrun are trying to predict when these bombs are going to attack Germany, right? And even with the most precise record keeping, they're trying to predict this using traditional astrological methods, and they're unable to do it. But they started to use this newer system that incorporates symmetry and geometry and found that they were actually able to predict when the bombs were going to drop with some precision. And not only that, they're also witnessing that there are these two energetic fields that aren't planets, but they're just, for whatever reason, they keep being brought into these pictures that are showing when the bombs are going to drop. And there was a lot of consistency. Then down on the line, they start to continue to do research on these two areas. And those are actually the first two trans-Neptunian planets that they found, Cupido and Hades. And we'll get into those two in my lecture, in addition to all of the other ones about what they mean, how they show up in charts. I have lots of chart examples. We're going to have an amazing time talking through those planets.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thanks for giving us a little bit of a background. It's fascinating. I have a little bit of study with some of this. I find it interesting because I'm looking here at the website and your bio, and I have to say this because it says with a tight Venus-Saturn conjunction in your
Yes,
chart. You know,
partile.
yeah, and then you get into you have cultivated a reputation for injecting fun into dry topics because typically if someone's looking at Uranian astrology, it can come across as dry, and I guess that's part of the you gave some history where it was coming from, so there is some sort of cultural dryness that comes into that too, right?
Yeah.
With Uranian astrology.
Yeah, it can be intimidating for people.
Yeah.
Looking at the dial itself, all of the numbers, for whatever reason, people start to freak out. I did that when I first saw the dial, probably the first 5 times I saw it. And then I felt a little better about it. We're not getting into the dial in my lecture. We're just going to talk about the planets. We'll save the dial for another day. But
Mhm.
ultimately, we're looking at planet to planet contact. So if you know what a square is, you know what an opposition is, a conjunction, then you'll be fine. Or if you know what
Yeah.
the our period, you will be fine in my
Yeah,
lecture.
I just from saying you're saying you have Venus Saturn conjunction, I think you're a perfect person to teach stuff like this because of what you can do with it and to keep it, make it approachable. So yeah, again, your lecture is on Saturday, May 24th at 10:30 a.m., which by the way, let me just remind people out there watching, if you follow transits and you're gonna thinking about attending online or you're gonna be there in person, Saturdays is a fascinating day in general because that is the day that Saturn goes into Aries. It's that night, and we have a Mercury-Uranus conjunction that happens that day too. So it should be an interesting Saturday in general for the conference. Exciting, a little electric. And for always something, I like this too at the end of your copy. It says, discover how these factors can serve as a gateway to expanding your astrological practice into new and innovative realms. And the transits that they are pretty much all about this. So yeah, so saying that, besides the lecture that you're giving, Ebony, you're also part of a Q&A slot that all of our speakers who are going to be at NORWAC are participating in. And these Q&A slots are in between the lectures during the weekend. All the speakers are at least in one spot during the weekend. You're in a spot at Saturday at 3 o'clock. It is yourself, Demetra George, Samuel Reynolds, Adam Ellenboss and Judith Hill. I will be facilitating. We take questions from the online participants, and sometimes we even bring them in their face in Zoom. And usually, the questions or two that come up lead into an interesting improvisational conversation with the speakers. And yeah, you'll be a part of that, Ebony. Um,
Yeah, I'm excited for that. Just a chance to be in conversation mode, not just in presentation mode. I'm on the panel with some really incredible astrologers that I have studied from, look up to, and I'm excited to see how we kind of layer our different approaches in answering some of these questions and connecting with some of the participants.
Yeah, I facilitated some of the Q&As last year, and you don't know where you're gonna go or where it ends up, but usually afterwards you're like, okay, and then once it's done, everyone's going to the next lecture. It's interesting. So again, if you're out there watching and you're thinking about attending the conference online, you can go to norwac.net. The schedule is up there. There's also pre and post-conference workshops. You can just go pick one of those if you want to go. You can do the whole thing. Again, the information's there. Ebony, before we go, I have a question. Do you remember the first time you were at NORWAC at the conference yourself or?
I think my first time was in 2021. It was an online one where it was all online.
Yeah.
And that was still amazing because I learned so much. So I definitely want to encourage people who can't come in person to join in online because you'll still have an amazing time, learn so much. That was my first time. And then I came back in person the next year. That was fun as well. Lots of opportunities to engage. But I think my most fun time was probably 2023. That was just, I don't know, different energy. I was ready to meet people at that time. In 2022, to be fair, I was in a 12th house year in my solar return.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time in my room. But 2023, I was ready to see the work, ready to see the world and engage and do the whole like NORWAC is where connections happen thing. So I'm
Yeah.
excited to come back.
Yeah, that's interesting that you did 2021 because I helped Laura behind the scenes with 2020 and 2021 online. The first time we were able to come back in person, it was the energy was intense and there was so almost overwhelming. And I've been to 17 Norwacs in a row, so it was its own individual thing. And I understand the next year, you're totally on point with this. I felt it because I think it was just a little less people, and then it just felt a little bit more grounding. Now, mind you, I wasn't going through a 12th house,
Yeah,
year, so
that makes a difference.
yeah, yeah. Hey, kudos to you. You still stepped out and went to the conference during a 12th house year.
I tried.
Yeah, no, no, that's cool, Ebony. Ebony, it's going to be great to see you here at the conference in person and all that. And for those again online or people who are thinking about attending online, besides the lectures, if you purchase the weekend, you get 2 weeks until after the conference. You can watch all the lectures. So you can spread out the information absorption in the 2 weeks. There is the Q&As that I mentioned. There is a Saturday night a costume party based on your ascendant, which people are going to be doing online, which is going to be fascinating. I will be in and out online and kind of maybe doing some on location stuff, maybe bringing in people with quick interviews because we'll have a room online that people can just hang out in all the time, whether the lectures are going on or not. That and much, much more. If you're interested, you can go to norwac.net. Okay. Ebony, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Look forward to seeing you next week.
Yep. All right, everybody. See ya.